Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 1st February 2017. The first article is American Carnage, Trump's Road to Ruin. Here we are going to discuss about what American President Mr. Donald Trump reflects from his presidency and personality. The first thing is conflict of interest, second is the hatred, third is narcissism, and fourth is the mispresentation of facts. Now, the business interests of Mr. Donald Trump and his public interest, that is, as the President of the United States of America, are in clear conflict with each other. The second is his Islamophobic attitude and his aversion towards the immigrants and his protectionist attitudes. These are becoming a threat to the free world order. So that's why America, which legitimately claimed itself to be the leader of the free world, is about to lose its status. And the growth of social media, it has provided for a new phenomenon, that is mispresented facts, which are also been called as alternative facts. So here the fact is been distorted and presented as a real fact. And Mr. Trump has mastered this particular art. And the issues are the figures which can be readily verifiable. Even on those, Mr. Trump is readily lying. So it clearly shows a new phenomenon in the public leadership and in the moral leadership, which is being stated from time to time by the President Obama. So these are the four words that reflect Mr. Trump as a president and his presidency. Demonetization's long shadow. So you know that today economic survey is being released, and its major emphasis is on understanding the demonetization and its impact on the economy. It has clearly stated that the demonetization can lead to slowdown of the economy in the short term, but will have the gains in the long term. It has projected a 0.5% of slowdown of the economy, but not more than that. And the second thing is, it also have assessed many other factors that can be responsible for slowing down of the economy. One is revisal of global oil prices, growing trade protectionism, and added to that unpredictability associated with the demonetization and demonetization and its impact on the informal sector in India. So what has to be done now? So economic survey suggests for demand driven remonetization. So what is the meaning of this demand driven is not explained in this article. While I do economic survey, I will be doing that. And then we have to go for the tax reforms. It also suggested to bring in land and real estate business under the GST. And then tax rate has to be come down, and then the tax base has to increase. It means more people shall be brought under the tax net, and the amount of the tax to be paid by each individual has to come down. So obviously it is in accordance with the Laffer-Curves argument. When the tax rate is medium and the tax, it's going to better tax realization. So that's what is the Laffer-Curve talks about. In line with that, the tax rates in India have to be moderated, and more people has to be brought under the tax net. And finally, the most of the black incomes or unaccounted money gets into the real estate sector. So here the stamp duties are one of the major reason, because to avoid the stamp duties, many of the people are willing to pay their hard-earned money in an unaccounted form. So if the stamp duties are removed, then obviously the buyers will be willing to get the properties registered in the face or else in the value of the property. So that's why stamp duties also have to be eliminated. These are the recommendations given by the economic survey. Now, drawing up a diet plan. So when you come to this perspective page, let's understand this way. The public distribution system and the number of beneficiaries being increased in every state, and what are the nutritional outcomes if the two are compared, there is an anomaly. In Andhra Pradesh, the PDS subscribers have increased, but it did not lead to the increase in nutritional outcomes. And on the other hand, the same has improved in the case of Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat, sorry. What might be the reason? So here, let's take as the dependency of the people is increasing on PDS. The PDS is majorly focused on carbohydrates in India. So the pulses and other nutrients are not being distributed through PDS. So as PDS provides for calorie security through carbohydrates, the income at the disposal of the people, it will be spent on other goods. It means that the nutritional or calorific requirement of the people, it will be fulfilled with the carbohydrates, and the nutrition is left aside. So the poverty is not just about hunger, it is also about nutrition. So when I take the carbohydrates or fats or proteins, my hunger is subsided. But if I want to have the proper nutrition, I need a balanced diet. So one way, through carbohydrate dependency, hunger is being done away with. But along with the other side, on the other side, the nutritional deficiency are getting pronounced. So this is what explains our nutritional deficiency with increase in coverage of the PDS system. So if universal basic incomes are being planned for, so the people will be more interested to diversify their nutritional requirements. That's what this article talks about. The land is their land, or this land is their land. This article's major focus is on land acquisition. In India, the land acquisition is highly controversial issue, and you all know that LAR, Land Acquisition Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act, it was passed in 2013. I talk about three things in the land acquisition. One is compensation, impact assessment, and then the approval or consent. Consent, approval, that is impact assessment, and then compensation. These are the three critical factors of the law. So in this context, most of the people do not know about the law, or the consent is not being taken by the government in most of the cases. And even these things apply, the consent applies for the land acquisition for the private projects, not for the governmental projects. So most of the cases, in the name of the infrastructure, government is acquiring the land. This infrastructure respects the capitalistic mode of development, the capitalistic mode of economic growth. But agricultural infrastructure and local agrarian supportive system, these are not being cared for or they are undervalued. So this is leading to a kind of resentment and violence in the rural hinterlands. That's what the emphasis of this article is. Violations in India, penalties elsewhere. Now, our Prevention of Corruption Act, this article is about corruption. Prevention of Corruption Act, it covers corruption of Indians only within boundaries of India. That is also confined to the public sector, public officials corruption. So in the United States of America, there is an act that is called Foreign Contributions Regulations Act. According to this, any American company or an American citizen or any person dealing with the American currency, if they use that for bribing others or getting involved in a corrupt exercise, they come under the scope of the foreign contributions. Sorry, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry, I just carried away. It's not Foreign Contributions Regulation Act, it is Foreign Corrupt Practices Act of United States of America. So, let me say it again. If any foreigner, that is American citizen or any person using the American currency, if he gets involved with corruption, then he can be prosecuted under the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act of United States of America. So in this case, for most of the corrupt practices of the American companies, American government has imposed the penalties. So there is no provision for the American government to share the proceeds with India. And added to that, the impact of the corruption is created in India, and through corrupt proceeds, India is also losing its revenue. So in this context, India has to tighten its legal framework against corruption. That is what is the advice over here. Now coming to economic survey. So just highlights of the economic survey I'm going to talk about. Universal basic income. The economic survey says the time has come for the idea. And then the rating agencies and their discrepancies between China and India is being questioned. To promote employment, the employment intensive sectors such as apparel and leather industry, they are going to get a policy boost. And then for asset reconstruction of the banks, for twin balance sheet syndrome, which has been stated in the last year's economic survey, the Aravind Subramanian, he clearly states that in a public sector managed asset reconstruction company has to be created. And then the interstate trade is very much high in India. It is because the interstate trade is less taxed compared to the intrastate trade in India. That is, CST is less than the VAT. And finally, the states good which are showing the good fiscal restraint, they have to be rewarded for. And FRBM Act also need to be revised. Rather than having a fixed number, a band of figure has to be brought in. So these are the major discussions under the economic survey. Now coming to the business page. So economic survey wants the modification of the FRBM Act. You know that FRBM Act stands for Fiscal Responsibility Budget Management Act. As per this act, a fixed or else the revenue deficit and fiscal deficit goals for the government are fixed to a number. So the finance minister in his budget speech last year has clearly stated that it has to be more like a band and it has to reflect the situations in the country. So the economic survey also has reiterated that FRBM Act need to be amended. The time ripe for discussions on universal basic income. Yesterday also we saw the Sampath's article on universal basic income. So let's try to understand this once we do with the economic survey. And coming to the main page of Hindu, note ban a radical measure. So the survey projects a growth of around 7.1% based on the pre-November 8th data. And it also stated that up to 0.5% of the GDP growth may get affected. And it expects in agriculture a 4.1% of the growth. But however, demonetization can badly impact this. With regard to the real estate sector, it wants to bring it under the GST. And coming to inflation, it states that it will be less than the RBI's target of 5%. And then the states will be given the report cards and incentivized if they are doing or well preserving their fiscal performance. And to improve the jobs, the major focus will be on leather and textile industry and a policy shift is expected over there. So this is what we have understood. So these are the articles for today. Thank you very much and all the best.